Hi y'all. Okay, so today I want to talk about Korean clubs. Since I've gotten here, I wasn't a huge club person in the States, but since I've gotten here, I wanted to try out Korean clubs because I wanted to see if they were any different or if they were the same, and kind of like compare. So I've been to two different clubs since I got here. And the first thing you'll realize when you come here is that clubbing's a little more difficult, for at least for me, than it was in the States. Like in the States, everybody has their own car, or you can find somebody to to carpool with. In Korea, like not everybody has their own car, especially the younger people. And the subways close at around midnight, like every night. So if you want to go out to a club, you have to get creative on how you're going to find your way back. So there are like four options that have pretty much like everybody chooses one of the four. So the first option is to leave before the subways close. That kind of sucks because that's like leaving at midnight. That's like leaving before the club even starts to hop. Like, bleh. Okay, so like that just whets your appetite and teases you. Anyway, okay, so the second option is for you to take a taxi home. That can be a little expensive depending on where you're coming from. So like I started out in where was I? Gangnam yesterday with my clubbing. And I live in Anyang, so that's a fairly far taxi ride. And that could be a little bit of moolah that I don't have because I haven't been paid yet. Anyway, that's a different story. And the third option you have is to stay at a jimjuban. I think that's what they're called. The saunas, like they're really cheap, and you can basically pay to use the sauna, and you can sleep on the floor. So you can go in and crash, catch some Z's for a couple of hours, and then catch the subway when it starts to run again at like 5 in the morning. Or the last option you have, number four, is to stay up all night, which can be a little rough, not gonna lie. So I've done the two clubbing times I went. I took a taxi home the first time, and I did the all nighter last night, I guess, into this morning. So the first time I went clubbing, we went to kind of like a foreigners club. So they played a lot of like bump and grind music, and there were a lot of foreigners there. And the second club that I went to was one of the more popular clubs here in Korea. It was pretty big too, like multiple stories, and it was really really cool. They played a lot of house, like techno music, and it was a lot of Korean people, a few foreigners as well, but not as many as the other one. And yeah, so the with my tons of experience, and by that I mean a whopping 2 nights. I've made some hypotheses, like a hypothesis that compares American clubbing to Korean clubbing, or at the very least, I kind of give a girl's guide to clubbing. So the first thing I'm going to say is that Korean men, in my very limited experience, so this is definitely not all men. Whatever I say about foreigners, whatever I say about Korean men, this is only my experience, and it's a very limited experience. But it's just kind of like what I'm slowly starting to believe. I might do another video that's like, just kidding, whoa, it's totally wrong. But right now, this is kind of what I'm thinking. Korean men are pretty good with no means no. When you're on the dance floor, I have a tendency to dance alone because I go to clubs to dance. I've never really understood the idea of letting a strange man dance on you, though. Like, I wasn't a huge partier in the States. I'm not a huge partier here. I never go to clubs drunk, really. So I'm always completely sober when I'm in the middle of the dance floor, usually by myself, dancing. And, you know, doesn't matter what kind of guy you are, you know, a lot of guys will try to dance with you. Totally understandable. They go to a club. A lot of girls go to clubs to pick up guys. If anything, I'm like, well, thank you for thinking that I'm attractive enough to dance with. but you're still not allowed to touch me. So they'll try, and that's when I'll turn around and be like, no, no thanks, or I'll walk away, or just do something to be like, don't touch me. And Korean guys are really good about that. Like, you tell them don't touch me, or you walk away, or like, I'm not interested, shake your head at them or something, and they don't bother you again. Like, they're pretty cool about that. The only thing I would say that Korean guys do, like, they might grab you, like, usually around the wrist, or maybe even around the waist if they're feeling super, super confident. That might, I don't know. I'm trying to think of where they got that from. A lot of K-dramas do that, so I'm wondering if it's kind of like chicken or the egg. Like, did they see a flower boy do that on a K-drama and think that it's okay? Or was that already part of the culture and K-dramas are just, representing it? I don't know. But yeah, they will grab you. So, like, don't be too startled. You just have to snatch yourself away from them and be like, yo, hey, not okay. And they're all pretty good about it. Even the ones that grab you, they're pretty good about, like, not messing with you after you're like, no thank you. Right? So that's great. Like, I love that they, they kind of are respectful in a strange way. Like, they don't try to mess with you more than once. Because in my experience in the States, like, American guys are not quite so, they're not exactly fast learners when it comes to that concept. Like, when I would go clubbing in the States, in Louisiana, they would usually try multiple times. And I'd be like, my opinion has not changed. I have not gotten any drunker because I'm not drunk at all. Like, please back off. I've had to pretend to be a lesbian to get guys away from me in the States. And even then, they're like, that's hot. I'm like, oh, great. So I think it's great that Korean men I don't have to pretend to be a lesbian for them to, like, leave me alone. There are a couple exceptions, though, to that rule, and I will explain that later. But for the most part, that's cool. Along that train of thought, though, the foreign guys here, this is not all foreign guys by any means. There are some really, really nice foreign guys that I've already met here that are really sweet and really cool. But the ones that you find at clubs, because there's a certain kind of people who go to clubs, and I've been to them, so I'm not, saying everybody, but the ones who go out every single weekend, they're the persistent ones, the ones that were bothersome in the States. Those guys are also here. So if a white guy, for example, tries to dance up on you, and you don't want him dancing all up in your grill, or I don't know, I guess grill's your teeth, huh? I don't know. My white girl slang's not very good. If you don't want him dancing all up on your stuff, and you turn around and you're like, hey, no, they might try again another couple times. And that's annoying. That's when you have to be like, hey, I didn't stutter, like, back off. And that's really, really annoying. And I'm a nice person. I don't like being mean. I understand that you're hitting on me, and that I'm in a club, so, like, I should expect you to hit on me. That's fine. But they can be bothersome. And they can also be handsy and put hands in places where I really have no intention of letting them touch. So just take a mental note, like, the white guys here can, not always, can be like the ones back in the States. So if you're familiar with that, then you know what to do. You might have to tell them a couple times because they're a little slow. Let's see, the last thing I want to say, one big difference that I've noticed here is the club that I went to yesterday specifically. Around 3 a.m., like, 'cause that was the one I stayed up all night. Around 3 a.m., a bunch of, like, 4 Korean guys got on the club dance stage. And I was like, huh, that's cool. And they had water bottles, and they, like, would take a swig of one of the water bottles, and they spit fire. And I was like, that's freaking awesome. Do that some more. Like, the club in general was really cool. They had, like, confetti cannons and, like foam. It's like foam, almost snowflake foam things would fall from the sky occasionally. The ceiling occasionally. Like, it was pretty cool. So these guys get on, they start breathing fire, and I'm like, all right, this club is awesome. Like, cool. And then they turn around and take another water bottle and start pouring it on themselves. And I'm like, huh. So they start pouring it on themselves. They're wearing jeans and like wife beaters. And then they turn around and start pouring it on each other. And so I feel like I'm watching that episode, like that part of Zoolander where they're playing with like the gasoline. You know, because in my mind I'm like, please don't tell me that that stuff's flammable. Because they did just spit fire out of different water bottles, so I'm like, please don't tell me that that stuff is flammable. But no, apparently this is part of like a fan service that they do for the girls at the club. And so they're like pouring water on each other, being sexy. And then they like take off their wife beaters and they're all, you know, ripped and sexy Korean guys. And they're dancing around being sexy. And all the girls are like, yeah, sexy, woo. Well, okay, in Korea, so like, wait, you know. But yeah, like, I'd never seen that kind of fan service before. I felt like I'd like accidentally gone to a Chippendales show for a few minutes. So I thought it was funny more than anything else. I mean, they were super hot, but I just thought it was hilarious. So that's definitely new. But after somewhere around like, I would say 4 o'clock, a lot of the girls left. And it was me and a club full of guys, basically. There were a few girls. But the ratio swapped like significantly. Like the number of girls to guys dropped a lot. So the guys started getting a little more desperate towards the end of the night. So I got hit on a lot more towards the end of the night. If you're gonna stay all night, like, you know, I got hit on a lot more towards the end of the night than I did in the beginning. And that's when I encountered the 2 Korean guys that were not as good with no means no as the rest of them. The first one was just funny. Like, I actually kind of saw him throughout the whole night. But every time he saw me, he didn't speak English. And every time he saw me, he hugged me. Like, he wanted to hug me. And at first I was like, why are you touching me? Why? But he never tried to grope me. Like, he was with his buddies, and when he would see me, he'd be like, you know, like gesturing his buddies, like, hey buddies, watch me hug the hot girl. And he would like hug me really, really hard and like really enthusiastically. And then he'd let me go. Like, just, he'd hug me and he'd let me go. And I came in and out of the dance floor, and he was kind of in the back of the dance floor, so I had to walk by him every time I would go in and out. And every time he saw me, he would just like hug me and let me go. Like, just, I was like, okay, whatever. He tried dancing with me a couple of times, and I wasn't in that. But like, I don't mind if he wants to hug me. Like, okay, whatever. I mean, I wasn't even dressed that, like, I was in shorts and a like shirt, like, I don't know, shorts with tights even. Like, there wasn't even a lot of skin showing. Like, it's just, but wanted to hug me. The second guy though was a little more irritating. He didn't speak English that well, but enough to be like, hey, can I buy you a drink? And this is at 4:30. I was like, no, you can't buy me a drink. 1, I'm not really drinking tonight, and 2, I'm going to be going home in less than a half hour. I don't want to drink. And he was being very persistent and starting to get on my nerves. And then he takes out his business cards. Koreans have a thing about their business cards. He takes out his, and he like tries explaining that his job is basically not the CEO of his company, but like one step down, and that he has a lot of money or something. And I'm like, look, dude, like, I'm not interested. I just want to dance. And he's like, oh, well, you know, follow me, follow me. I'm like, no, I'm not following you. I'm not letting you buy me a drink. Like, it's late. You barely speak any English. I'm not interested. And he's like, well, let's dance. I was like, I don't want to dance with you either. Please go away. And like, I was pretty clear about go away. And so he goes away, and I was like, thank goodness. And I go and I sit next to my friend. And a couple minutes later, this different Korean guy comes up to me, and he goes, hey, that's my boss you were just talking to, and he really, really wants to talk to you. Can you please just come and talk to him? I was like, no, I don't want to talk to him. His English is not very good. It's loud in here even then, so like, I can't hear him, and I can't understand him. Like, I don't want to talk to him. And he's like, he just wants to buy you a drink. I was like, I don't want him to buy me a drink. It's already really late. I was like, I'm not interested. So the guy goes away, and then he comes back again. And he's like, look, my boss just really wants to talk to you. I can translate for you. And I'm like, look, dude. I'm starting to get a little irritated. Like, look, dude. He doesn't speak English well. I am not interested. You're not going to be there to translate for him all the time. And there's only like 15 minutes left of the night. I'm like, please, no. I don't want him to buy me a drink. I don't want to dance with him. Like, I don't care how much money he makes. Like, I'm just not interested. And he is like, look, I'm sorry, I'm just the messenger. I was like, I know, I'm not mad at you, I'm not mad at him, but like, please understand me when I say that I am not interested and that he needs to leave me alone and that you need to leave me alone. And so eventually, like, he stopped coming back and stopped bothering me. But I was like, that's a little irritating. Like, I don't feel like dealing with this. No means no. Like, please do not send your like underling to come hit on me. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, I'm not in middle school anymore. It can't be like, hey, my friend likes you. Do you like him too? Like, no, I'm not interested. So that was the only other time that I was like a little irritated. I was like, don't make me flip my switch. Like, I will go all crazy on you. Uh, and so it was like, I think like 4:50 or so when we left. Caught a cab to my friend and I. We caught a cab to the subway, just fairly cheap because it was a short trip. And then just caught the subway, and I got home at like 6:30 in the morning. Woo! That was rough, man. Like, I got home, washed my face, and just like passed out until like noon. So those have been my two experiences in Korea. This is a long video, but overall, like, I think it's that my experiences have been really fun. Clubbing is not cheap, but it is fun, and I do suggest that you do it just for the experience of it. And like I said, most Korean men are really great about no means no. Even the foreigners are pretty cool about it. So absolutely go, pick your clubs wisely, but have fun in Korea. Like, I'm glad I did it, even though I'm not a big clubbing person. I'm glad I did it, and I'll probably do it another couple of times before, all is said and done. So that's my brief, my 18-minute brief about, opinion about Korea's dancing scene. I might update later if I change my mind, but that's it. So, until then, ciao, tschüss, annyeong, I guess is the most appropriate thing to say. And that's it. So, yeah. Mm-hmm. 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 No, for realsies. Okay, bye.